Hey guys, Tim Church over at Ethernet Blueprint. So I get asked from time to time between TikTok and YouTube about Ubiquity cloud hosting. Do I use cloud hosting service? If so, what do I like about them? What services do I like? Or do I just sprinkle UDM Pros and UDM Pros SEs everywhere and manage my clients that way? Now, for me personally, I think there's a huge benefit to using something like cloud hosting. The big one for me is alerting. If you have a site go down, you get alerted to it right away. With the UDM Pro, because the alerting is happening on the device, if the service is down, it can alert you that it's down, which really sucks. You get an alert when it comes back up, but you don't know that it's down at the moment. And as an MSP, I want to know when my clients are down. So using something like cloud hosting is a really, really great way to do that. Just sprinkle some UXGs or UXG Pros out there from Ubiquity, and you have yourself a really nice router that does a good job that can be cloud hosted. So today I want to introduce you guys to the service that I use. I got a chance to interview the guys over at Unihosted, and so I jumped at the chance. These guys have been really great to work with. It's been a super easy process. They put a lot of focus on support, which is great as an MSP. You want to have those guys in your corner in case something goes wrong, or you just need a little extra support, or even just a different set of eyes looking at the problem. These guys offer it. I think they probably have the best pricing model in the industry, which is a huge bonus for them. It kind of allows you to start out small and grow as your business grows. So especially for new MSPs out there. However, if you are a large MSP and you're just looking for a new home to drop your devices, it's a great way to go too. They even have a free model. So if you're just wanting to play with Ubiquity stuff, maybe you just want to get an AP and mess with it a little bit, you can actually do that for $0. So they got a little bit of something for everybody. So I wanted to introduce you guys to them. The interview is pretty long, so I will be sticking some timestamps down below. That way you can kind of check out the parts you want to see. But this is the service I use, and it's been great. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to Dries and Adrian, two of the co-founders of Unihosted. All right, so welcome guys. On the left in the green, we have Adrian, and on the right, we have Dries. And I'm just gonna go ahead and kick things off with you guys here. But why don't you guys just start by, and whoever wants to shout, go ahead, but tell everybody about Unihosted and what it is that you guys do in your words. Go ahead and fire away.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's great to be on your YouTube channel. And so actually, so we are the founders of Unihosted. And funny enough, you are one of our first customers, and we're really happy about that. And what we do is we host Unifi controllers in the cloud. Now it's called Unifi Network. It's basically the same thing. And basically, we're focused on managed service providers, just like you. And most of the times, they have like a lot of sites, which corresponds to a lot of physical locations, offices, schools, you name it. And they have also a lot of devices. And of course, like sometimes things break, and then it's easy not to have to go to the physical location and to have some kind of monitoring system that is globally available, and that's where you would like to have a Unifi controller that is hosted in the cloud. I'm Dries, one of the co-founders. I'm more focused on the technical side. Like we have quite some infrastructure running, a lot of devices talking to the servers, and then Adrian, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Like, I think we met like a year ago together. We're having an office in Amsterdam, and we had a few desks available. And then Dries came along and was renting a desk at our place. And we always wanted to start a few projects on the side. And then Dries said like, "Hey, I'm working on a project already. Maybe you guys are interested in joining my venture." And that's how it started actually. And it was super fun because Dries had all the experience with the technical part, Our other co-founder, Iron, he has a lot of experience with selling products and setting the SEO right and the marketing. And I have experience in the business already as well. So we could all like combine our forces and start Unihosted. And basically that's how we started.
That is really great. And you kind of touched base on my next question, getting ahead of me there, but just on the personal side, I mean, maybe go into a little bit of your backgrounds. It's really neat how you guys came together, but go in a little bit on your background about, I always say, and I'm a big fan of an author named Simon Sinek, and his big thing is he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and so maybe dive in a little bit as to why this venture was important to you, what was calling you from it, how does your background relate to, specifically Ubiquiti products or networking in general, just kind of maybe a little background, but why did you decide this was maybe a good venture to go into?
Well, yeah, I think I can answer that question. So when I was still studying, I studied software development, and there was a study that was basically focused on programming, learning languages, and it was all great. But I always liked the network side of things, like running infrastructure. I worked for a company that was also pretty focused on infrastructure. And then like I knew like I wanted to do something with infra in the future. And then it's actually a funny story because my parents, like, their Wi-Fi sucked, and it's always that I called like, oh, Dries, can you fix this? And then I was like, okay, now we should fix it for once and for all, and we should install some Ubiquiti gear. And that was actually the first time I installed it myself, and there were only 2 access points. Like, the house isn't that big. But there were 2 access points, so it would be nice to have a controller running. And I installed a controller on a Linux VPS, and I noticed that it was kind of a pain to install. Like, you need to write the alpha version. There is a Mongo database that you need to install. You need to run the program itself and make sure that it keeps on running. And you also have like updates and stuff like that. And then once you install it all, then you will be welcomed with a SSL warning that your certificate is self-signed and that the connection is not secure. So I thought, like, okay, I can do this, but maybe this is a viable business, and I could automate it. And that was actually years ago when I worked on that project. I spent the whole summer, went to my parents again, and I was like, okay, I really need to ship this product. It's going to be great. It will be my first SaaS, and it was called Waamd. It's kind of a weird name, but actually, like, I finished the product, and Waamd was up and running. And somehow a random guy on the internet found my little website that had 0 traffic and bought a annual subscription. And then I was like, holy shit! I didn't thought it would be this easy, or not that it was easy because I spent months on it working full time. But I was really happy. Like, okay, this is some kind of validation, right? But then because of my studies, I still had to write my thesis. I went on an internship, and I was like super busy. So basically, I had 0 time for marketing. And then the project kind of stopped from there after a year, and I gave the money back to that person a year later. Like, I was like, sorry, guy, the service wasn't what it's supposed to be. He never mailed me or complained about anything, but I knew, like, okay. This could be better. So I gave him back the money. He didn't respond on that either, but that's definitely okay. And then a year later, I met, I think 2 years. No, 2 years later, I met Adrian and Iron. But this project was still in the back of my head. Like, I knew, like, okay, I had this one customer. There's definitely. It definitely has some potential to it, and I really liked the idea. So I was working on a version 2, which was better, of course, and I was coding and instead of doing marketing and stuff. And I knew I would never launch this again without having a co-founder or multiple co-founders. And then I met, like, I don't know, Elon, and they said, oh, this is interesting. And then apparently it is.
Yeah.
So we launched it with the 3 of us, and now it's called Unihosted.
Yeah, no, that's great. And actually, your origin story started very similar to businesses I've started. It's like people want great Wi-Fi in their home, they want a great network, but they don't want to spend the time doing it, understanding it, all the other stuff. My whole other business was driven around that. We really focus on the home user because they get left out a lot. Let's face it, home users can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, and they have a lot more different devices in the background running and stuff they bought on Amazon. They want it to all work together. So it's a little trickier, but boy, that remote aspect of being able to see the traffic, see the devices, see when problems are going along while sitting in your living room or whatever, it's just really a completely valuable asset to bring to any MSP. So you guys had mentioned, I think 1,400 and some, around 1,500 Unifi devices you guys are managing. Is that accurate still today?
Well, it went up a little bit.
Good.
So
well, that's good.
right now, right now it's 1,826 Unifi devices, and
that's
most
awesome.
of them are access points.
So on that, go into a little bit about, and that's crazy growth because we just started this conversation about a few weeks ago, right? So you've already made big strides. What's it take to manage these larger infrastructures on a controller side? Kind of talk maybe about the back end and just really what goes into it a little bit.
Well, I think I can answer this question again. So definitely there's a lot of levels of abstraction. Like, of course, you have the Java binary that is running, in our case, within a container, and that container is running within a VPS, and we're using a filter because I think they're fair priced and they're easy to use. So what makes this in a way manageable, or I think like we have the luxury that now you have like a ton of cloud providers that offer VPSs, and of course that is containerized as well or virtualized. But that makes it from a security perspective and from a scalability perspective, it makes it doable because you would just rent a new VPS and install your software on it, and then it's ready to go. Like that's the initial flow. Filter is doing all the hard work for us. They're running the infra, they have the data center, so they're paying for the ISPs and stuff like that. And we were just really glad that we can use them.
But we still need to monitor, right? Like if someone is using 1,000 devices versus 100 devices, the server needs to be quite different. So we monitor like all the memory and the usage. Usually most of it is the Mongo database that uses the most resources, especially with a lot of devices. So we monitor it, and if it goes like a bit slower or something, we check how many devices does someone have, and then we can increase the server in a minute.
Yeah, that just turning up the dial a little bit makes it really really nice. The days of the old physical server and you got to upgrade hardware to make things go faster, I mean, those days are gone. And I know Amazon hosting and some of those have just really made it very, very simple to just buy what you need and crank it up as you grow, which has been handy. So it sounds good that you guys are set up that way. Obviously growth is happening, which I'm very excited for you guys, especially being one of the early people. I can speak on my end. When you find someone new, you don't know if, and you're taking a chance. You don't know if they're going to be here 3 months from now, 6 months from now. Take your first example, the guy, whatever. So there's always a little bit of from a customer standpoint, a little bit of do you do it or do you not? One thing I really liked when I reached out initially was you guys were very responsive. And obviously when you're small, you can be a little bit more responsive. I assume as you guys grow and whatnot, that will also be tweaked up and dialed up a little bit to help. So one of the areas I wanted to ask about, just since it goes into that a little bit, is the support aspect. So as you guys grow, obviously the beauty of a business like this is you can run it with a fairly small, intricate team, which is good. But as you guys grow and more questions are coming in for someone that has 1,000 devices and you want to treat them like a very important customer, how do you guys handle the support aspect of it? What things have you kind of had to tweak and change in that area to make this a viable business?
Yeah, we used a few ways to use to help people with support. So we just started with simple email and just responded to the request. And in the beginning, there was not so many emails, right? So it's very easy to keep track. But we also included, and maybe we touch on it later, the free plan, and that comes with like a lot more users that are using your product. So there's a few ways that you can handle this. You can either make a lot of time available or try to limit the support questions. So one of the first things was adding better documentation, making guides, making videos, stuff like that. But then also now we're working on a better onboarding. So for example, if someone wants to connect their first controller or their first device to their controller, you basically want to help them step by step instead of like, hey, here's our documentation, go there to find it out, because people don't always read. And with those changes, we also lower the support that's needed for our customers. So we can focus more on that customer with 1,000 devices or wants to have 2,000 devices. But at the moment, we can still be very responsive to new customer. Like for example, today, someone with I think 300 devices wanted to get set up, wanted to have a special version, wanted to have help with import export, and we can do it all on the fly. It's super nice that we can just take the time to reply to our customers.
There are some other competitors that I feel, are also in your space. Hostify is a big one. I've even used them in the past. Even Ubiquiti is kind of getting on board with this hosting idea and platforms and stuff. So maybe go into a little bit about what sets you guys apart. Is it cost? Are you cost driven? Are you looking to offer other things? Is it the support side? I know for me personally, when I look at Ubiquiti hosting something like that, support is a huge problem for me because they're notorious for having bad support. My opinion, that's just my opinion. But, what kind of sets you guys maybe apart a little bit from the Hostifys and some of the other companies like this?
I can take that question. What we started with was Dre started like a long time ago. And when we joined as partners, we thought like, okay, how can we be different or how can we be unique in the market? And one thing that was a bit weird for us looking at competitors was the pricing. And we thought like, okay, can we make it a little bit more fair? Like someone with 5 devices shouldn't pay like a lot of money versus someone with 100 devices. That's quite a difference. Why should they pay the same amount? So we thought, like, why don't we do pay per device? And that idea grew, and we thought, like, okay, but then still there's a small market of people that we can't or might not serve, and that's the small homeowners that just have like a few routers laying around. And like us ourselves, we have a few of those discs hanging in our homes and at our parents' places and stuff like that. And it's just fun. Like it's not really necessary to pay like a lot of money for the Unifi controller, but you just want to play around with it and have a nice network at home. So we thought, like, why not make those people a bit of ambassadors of Unihosted? So if you give them a little bit for free, then maybe they will talk about us. They will be our marketing channel, help us that way. We don't think they will be like converting into paid customers. We think homeowners will probably play with a few devices, not like 30 devices. So we did that, and we launched with 3 free devices. So the free plan was with 3 devices. And then people said like, yeah, but that's not really a nice plan because at home I usually have already 4 devices. I have a router, I have access points, so maybe 5 would be better. And then we thought, okay, why not? Let's do 5. And then the community was like, okay, this is actually useful for us.
Yeah.
So then we started to get some responses of people like, oh, this is actually really nice. And that's basically how we differentiated the pricing and kind of get our ambassadors to work for us, but also to give a little bit back to that community.
Yeah, so kind of like what you're talking about with how you guys host. You can grow into that, and then a homeowner or whatever can grow into their controller that you guys are providing. Yeah, I know day one on a lot of times you start with one access point, maybe two, then it turns into three. Then, oh, I want outdoor Wi-Fi. So then you got four,
Exactly.
and it grows. And so then that conversation changes and says, hey, you guys have been offering me free service. I really appreciate it. I've outgrown that now. I love Ubiquity. I'm going to stick with it, and then that's where the kickback comes. So I think it really is a great way of doing it. And I'm not here to promote anybody else. I do know that Hostify did start with a free plan when he kind of started out too. So, but he's done away with it. I don't know the reasons behind it, and I'm sure it's in his blog and whatnot. But I hope it's something you guys are able to hold on to. I think it is a really good little ace in the hole. That again, you're getting something from people being ambassadors for your name. Getting your name out there is probably the hardest part of all this, right? I mean, the internet's a big world. So,
and the nice thing is that, like, if someone has an issue with their home network or something, they will contact us, right? So there's just this chat bar on our website, and people just type in, "Hey, can you help?" And then you have a moment of showing that we have great support. And actually, that's really nice because they have a problem, we solve it quickly, and they are happy. And they're like, okay, now I'm going to share this name to other people that might need it.
Yeah.
So it's also, if there's something going wrong for someone, it's actually good for us. Like, we can show that our support is good. Yeah. Like, support is actually, we didn't think of that before, that it was so important, but we noticed that people liked it so much. That we're pushing it way harder than initially thought.
Yeah, like I said, support's the name of the game, man. We live in a world where that's just gone away. You buy your own groceries, you pump your own gas. All the things that used to be not normal are just we're just so used to being and having the information thrust into you that you have to be your own ambassador for your own stuff. It is really nice to be able to pick up the phone or send an email and actually get an answer. I've sent emails into the abyss. And I'm still waiting on answers to come back because you don't even know if a person's checking that mailbox. So kudos to you guys for getting back to people and making that a focus. I think that is huge in this world, especially the tech world. People want nice networks. They want this nice equipment, but they're scared of it just because they're like, well, I don't want to get it over my head. And Ubiquity is affordable, but they don't give their stuff away. So, there's an investment aspect to it as well. So actually, I'm curious about equipment since we're kind of talking about it. So let's talk about the kind of equipment that you're seeing management-wise. And I'm really kind of focused on the routers here. Obviously, switch and access points are kind of a given. Are you finding that people are using their own routers and you guys are just managing the devices from the switch down? Do you have some UXGs in the mix? Because USGs, just to kind of give the background to any of the viewers here, the USG kind of went through its life cycle and it kind of had this year where it was like, is this thing going to come back? And nobody could get their hands on them. And Ubiquity really didn't do a very good job of keeping their clientele up to date. And then they just released this UXG and this UXG Lite. And so, but they really put a lot of focus on the UDM. So I'm just curious, like, what kind of devices are you guys managing? What's your bread and butter here?
Yeah, so, well, we're basically an alternative to the UDM, of course. And I think like every MSP should not be dependent on the UDM. The UDM is the Unified Dream Machine. And it's basically, it's a good machine, to be honest. If you have like a really small network and you will never leave that network and you're managing it yourself, like I totally understand that people are buying a UDM. It's also a great value that you get. But the problem is that the UDMs break down and they're located physically on site, and then the MSP has to go there and then fix it or replace it or whatsoever. And that's like, that will happen. We just don't know when. We had a customer where he told us, okay, can you migrate quickly? Because literally my UDM like caught on fire, and we were like, holy shit, man, is your house okay? This should not happen. Like we did that. We only heard that once, to be honest. So I don't want to bash the UDM that much.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the UDM, does have its place. I think you do get a lot of value for the hardware that you're getting. However, in a business environment when managing multiple devices, I mean, you touched on one topic for sure. You have a piece of hardware sitting in a building that you're not sitting next to, that becomes a problem. Anytime you have physical hardware, it's a problem. But no matter what, you're most likely going to have a physical router somewhere, doing something anyway. So you still run those risks. But I do think the UDM is really driven towards very small business or even home users. I think that's kind of its bread and butter. When you start getting these larger networks, and I follow a lot of Ubiquiti guys on YouTube as well, and they all kind of say the same thing. It's a great basic router. It's going to tell you some flashy information, but it's not the greatest firewall. A lot of them use things like pfSense and things like that to do their routing and firewall protection, because there's just a lack of features, that you can really dive into on the UDM. So I think it has its place. But so are you guys managing quite a few routers, the UXGs and the new UXG Pros and stuff?
Yeah, we do. Like most of the customers that pay for subscription, so not the free tier users, they have one of them. Yeah. And of course, we also have some that run their non-Ubiquiti routers.
Yep.
And that works fine as well, because you can still, of course, create VLANs. That stuff will just work. I saw that you created a video about VLANs, and so it's definitely like the Ubiquiti ecosystem is compatible to that extent. But they are popular. Like most of the customers are running one. Yeah.
I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. So talk a little bit, we talked about growth, we talked about, type of devices you manage, and I'll even dive in a little bit of one of the issues I had, and you ventured into it and helped me with it, was, some of the challenges you run in a business like this is once you're out there, you're open to attacks, and things of that nature. People are like, oh, here's a new target I can kind of go play with. So talk through, have you run into anything like this at all in your business?
Yeah, so our first customers know that, or some of the first customers know that we were definitely a target of a pretty large attack, in my opinion. So the attack didn't succeed. They didn't break anything, or no data was stolen or whatsoever. But the problem is that when you connect a new Ubiquiti device, you click on adopt, right? And then under the hood, like the new access point that you just installed in your house will start talking to that controller. But the controller doesn't know who that access point is. And that is why it shows up as, hey, do you want to adopt this access point? Do you want to add it to your network? And then, of course, you click yes most of the times. But this message that you can send to a controller is something that you can generate. You can make a program for it and then send like 1 million of adoption requests to a controller. And our controllers, like you can find out what the URLs of a controller, even though if you would have used like random IDs, you can still, there are techniques how you can figure out what domains a company is running. And somebody was found out about this and then sent like a ton of these adoption requests to customers. And then we got some customers that were like, hey, my dashboard is kind of bloated with all these adoption requests. Can you do something about it? And you are one of them.
Yeah, it happened.
So we mitigated that attack. We wrote basically our own firewall that's able to inflate these dissect these inform packets, like check if they're within filters that I'm not going to mention.
Yeah.
And then if they're okay, as a customer, you wouldn't know. But if they're one of these rogue inform requests, then we'll filter them. So hopefully, I think you never got one.
No, it's all I haven't run into it since.
So that was one part, and there was definitely a lot more. So, but actually, we're. I think it was a good thing that it happened, and that of course it is. I feel confident to tell a story because like it ended well, and I call it hacker-driven development. And whoever this is, like he tried like I think everything, and then that is why we have CAPTCHA. That's why we have email verification. That's why we have this firewall that checks all incoming and outgoing packets. So it's kind of a fortress right now, and I'm really happy about it. So like getting hacked, or well, if somebody's trying to hack you, is also like a good way to. It's like a free pen test, right? You can
Yeah.
yeah you will have a more secure network afterwards.
Well, and it's good to happen, early too. I think just because the impact is a little less minimal. You don't have 1,000 people emailing you; you have 25 or whatever it is, wherever you were when that happened. But I do recall that happening. For the viewers out there, I use these guys for my hosting, so. I was one of them. I would open up my controller and I'd have a whole bunch of switches in there and all sorts of things asking to adopt it. And so, kind of touching base on the subject or on the support thing we talked about earlier, I emailed the guys and really very quick response. Said, yep, we know about it, we're working on it, and the issue should be resolved very soon. And that's exactly what happened, which is good. I'm glad that you guys were able to squash it. Don't you just kind of wish the internet would just leave you alone? Like, just let me run my business, guys, and leave me alone and just let me do my thing. But there's bad eggs out there everywhere.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, and luckily, like I mean, it is real. Like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that's what happens here. And like the attack was basically it was basically equal to having like a lot of spam in your mailbox.
Yeah.
For some viewers that maybe don't really understand all aspects. So it's basically you have a mailbox full of spam, and make sure like the legit emails harder to find, and it's just annoying. And right now, yeah, everything's being filtered out, and
Real quick, I do want to touch base on and get you guys' take on some of the new tech that's really booming here, right? Wi-Fi 7 is a very hot topic right now. You see mesh systems being sold with Wi-Fi 7 promising all these crazy speeds. Even Ubiquiti has come out with some Wi-Fi 7 products. So maybe touch base on just kind of where you see this world going a little bit, what you like, what you don't like. And yeah, let's just kind of get your professional opinion on that.
Well, I think it's great. Like, I'm also always so excited for these new technologies. Even though, like, currently we're on Wi-Fi 6, and that is already like super fast. But it's amazing that you have like Wi-Fi 7 now. And to be honest, I didn't expect Ubiquiti to launch a Wi-Fi 7 access point that soon, because like there are Wi-Fi 7 access points or routers, even for home users on the market. But they were super expensive. And then suddenly Ubiquiti just dropped this new access point. I was like, oh, this is the price is fair as well. Like in Europe is 165.
Yeah.
Which I've seen routers for like 1K or something.
Yeah, the mesh systems are super expensive. $1,500 for like a 2-piece. I mean, it is crazy what they're selling them for. Which I get. The chips that go into them and all that stuff's expensive, and it'll come down. I think one of the challenges is for a consumer is, what do I buy? Do I buy Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E, or what do I buy? Because all these options are thrown at me and promising crazy speeds and all this other stuff. Do you think it's good to go ahead and move forward with like buying? If you were buying today, is that what you go with?
Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I will buy a Wi-Fi 7 access point.
Yeah.
Or at least like if you don't have the choice for Wi-Fi 7, at least go for Wi-Fi 6E, because that means that you will be, I mean, probably but that means that you will be on the 6 gigahertz band. And I live here in ADN as well, in Amsterdam, super crowded. If you check the RF spectrum, and being on a new band, like you will be one of the only. No, I think like they're not even using it here around my house.
Yeah.
So you'll have like the whole frequency for yourself, and that on itself is already like amazing.
I think the only concern I have, again, I'm talking from a home user standpoint, is the distance it can go and how well it travels through walls. And So let's just take the business, for example, you've used the planner, design center, you figure out where your access points are going to go and you put AC access points, and then all of a sudden you move to Wi-Fi 7, you're excited about these new speeds, but now you don't have the coverage you had before because the signal just doesn't go as far. It's one of the sacrifices that I think people forget about with the new technology, that they sometimes need to be closer together. Have you guys managed do you have any experience with the Wi-Fi 7? I don't yet, so I haven't really got to play with it personally.
Yeah, me neither. But I know that. So of course it's Wi-Fi 7, and it's on the 6 GHz band. But Wi-Fi on the 5 GHz band and 2.4 is still enabled on those access points. So it's just an extra option you have. Like if you're close to the access point or to the router, you will enjoy, and you have a device that can receive it, you will enjoy this insane speeds. Yeah. But when you're a room further away, or maybe even on a different floor, you will still be able to receive like 2.4 GHz.
That's a good point.
So I think it isn't like, I shouldn't buy that because then on the other level, or on the other floor, the coverage will be degraded, but you will still enjoy the 2.4 GHz. So I think it's just a big win, and again, with that price point in the market, it will be a no-brainer because it isn't even that much more expensive.
Yeah. The other big thing is power, right? They draw a lot of power, and so I think from a viewer standpoint, just to educate you guys a little bit, make sure if you're planning on making that upgrade that your switch can accommodate the power, because Wi-Fi 7 definitely draws more. And that's the world we're living in. We're living in this world, and I think it's one of the areas, in all honesty, that I have been probably the least happy with Ubiquiti, is they almost kind of force you to use their pro switches and pay that extra amount. And maybe it's not a big deal in a business because you're going to want 10 gigabit backbone and everything anyway, which you also get with that. But from a home user that wants Wi-Fi 7, it almost forces them to pay more to get a beefier switch just because they need the power. I think on the low end, the light switches and stuff, they're like 45 watts. I mean, that's going to run like one of them, you know what I mean? So it's one of the areas I wish their lower model switches or their regular non-pro switches had more power. I mean, even 120 watts would be helpful. Their 16 watt or 16 port switch and 24 port switch, they're very low, under 100 watts, which 95, I think, on a 24 port switch, which when you start distributing that between cameras and access points and whatever, that doesn't go very far. So it's one of the areas I think they can improve on. But if anybody's watching this and looking to do Wi-Fi 7, make sure you have enough power. That's a biggie with that one because they draw a lot of juice.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, we're going to wrap things up here. I do want to, we kind of touched a little bit on this as we went along, but I just my viewership here, if someone is a subscriber to my channel and watches this, it's really geared towards the more of the home user, like we mentioned. Now, I'm an MSP myself. I wanted to get your name out there, guys. I think it's important to know that there's options out there. Even for just, I want to run my own router, but I want to manage all my Wi-Fi and switch gear. It's very, very doable to do that. So I know you guys are driven towards MSPs, but maybe just talk a little bit about, the free product for home users, like what specifically is included with that, just so they know, A, B, and C. And, maybe go into why someone who is going to be building a home, like in my channel, why they should maybe look to use you guys for something like that.
I can touch on that. I think the free plan is indeed really targeted for the home user, and we make it work with one Unifi controller. So basically, everybody that joins that Unifi controller will get a site, and a site and Unifi controller can have different admins, so they will be a user on that site. So this removes a few features from the Unifi controller, of course, because you're not the admin of the Unifi controller. Yeah. So it is a more limited version of what you would get, like if you have the full Unifi controller. So that's the big difference. For example, a few features are not possible, like logging in from your phone you can't do that because you need admin rights for the controller for that. So for that, you would need the business plan. There's a limit of 5 devices. That's we already mentioned. We don't really offer the frequent monitoring and importing and exporting. But if someone wants to move from the free plan to a business plan, we might be able to accommodate. Thank you for that. To accommodate them. So yeah, that's the main differences basically.
So actually, and that's a good point. I don't think we talked about this. Talk about, so I'm a home user and I want to be able to use my phone. I still have kind of a small network, or maybe I want to manage my own and my parents' house, right? Going back to our original example. What's that going to cost? People need to justify the cost. And then you're talking about comparing to putting a UDM Pro at their house and a UDM Pro at the parents' house, which is going to be $1,000. What's the next tier up for maybe a home user to be like, well, I can just pay $20 a month or whatever it is?
Yeah, so the business plan starts at $30 a month, and that's included with 30 devices. So then you can set up a site locally, site for your parents, site for whatever you think is necessary. And then you can combine all those devices within that one Unifi controller. So we don't care about where the device is listed. As long as it's in the Unifi controller, you can have as many sites as you want. You can log in with your phone. And basically you can use all features that are possible within the Unifi controller.
Yeah, and what's also pretty important is that we're not running any admin accounts on the paid Unifi controllers. So we don't have of course, we're hosting or managing the infrastructure, but we don't have an admin account where you can just log into your controller and I don't know, that's something that does happen with the shared controller. So the free tier is just one big shared controller with a lot of site administrators.
Yeah.
And of course, we have an admin account there to actually create these site admins with an API. So that's also a big difference, for production wise.
And Unifi versions is also a difference. Like the free version, we just give the later version. But with businesses, we are a bit cautious. Some businesses don't want to go on the leading edge. So we tell them upfront, hey, we're going to upgrade you in 2 weeks. And if they don't want it, they can just reply and say oh, keep me on the current version, please. And then we just skip that one Unifi controller. So we also can do more custom stuff if you are on the business plan, and if you're on the free plan, we upgrade the whole controller. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's good. So just kind of taking over the thing here.
Mm-hmm.
For a home user, if you guys are a home user out there and you're thinking about Ubiquity, and you've probably seen a lot of stuff on the UDM Pro. Heck, I've done a lot of videos on the UDM Pro myself. But just know that you can get into something like this with hosted and some support, $30 a month. The router can either be your ISP router, and then you just manage your switch and access points, which really is a lot of what you're doing anyway. Or if you like the idea of being able to do VLANs on the UDM, guys, something like the UXG Lite, I think it's $125 or something like that, or $135. It's not expensive. It's a great little router, and it will give you full control of everything and full hosting capabilities, because that device is actually able to be hosted by you guys. I'm really glad that Ubiquity replaced the USG. I don't like the way they did it, but at the end of the day, I'm glad there's a new product out there. It's supposedly 10 times faster and all this horsepower. I haven't really tested its limits yet, but for anybody out there who has a home network, wants support, doesn't mind the idea of paying $30 a month to just keep it hosted and be able to ask a question if something comes up, I think it's a really great and affordable option. But again, if you just want to play around with it, I think the free version again is a good way to just see it and play with it and kind of understand it. So I like what you guys have done there. I really, really do. Well, hey, thank you guys for your time today. This has been really, really neat. I haven't done anything like this, and my viewers are not. This is a little atypical from my normal YouTube, but I really felt it was important to introduce you guys and let people know that this service exists. Now, let's just kind of, if you recap for just a second, I mean, if you're a home user that, just wants to play around with Ubiquiti, maybe you're thinking about starting to touch the infrastructure, you guys have a plan for that. If you're a home user that likes the idea of having some support and you're not worried about being an MSP, you have a plan for that. And then really you have, from an MSP standpoint, I like your pricing model there too, because it allows someone who's starting a business to kind of start out small, like we all do, and then grow into the package from there. So I think you guys have all your bases covered. And this is just a really nice opportunity for people to meet you and, kind of see behind the scenes. Like I mentioned earlier, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so just getting a taste of the personality and the excitement behind the project and stuff like that, I think really does help. So I really do appreciate you guys' time today. And I really hope that we can send some stuff your way. Now, real quick, just for anybody who has questions, right? They see this, they have questions. Do you have any place you'd like to send them for those questions? I don't think you want me fielding them for you, right? So do you have like a general mailbox, like an info mailbox or something they could ask questions to you guys on?
Yeah, they can use the chat box that we have on our website.
Okay, that's perfect.
So you can go to unihosted.com and there will be a chat box will appear, and then we try to answer all of your questions. If you're a paid user or a free tier user, it doesn't matter. We try to answer your questions as soon as possible. And also, if you hit the comments below, probably will be watching those as well and try to comment on questions that will appear there. So,
Adrian, Dries, appreciate the time, and we'll see you guys down the road.
All right.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.